Hi, I am John. Welcome to Echoes of Peace, from 1914 to today. This is a story that traverses time and connects the lives of individuals from two distinct eras. It's a tale about war and peace, where we witness people across different conflicts yearning for the same thing, peace. In the winter of 1914, the Western Front was a landscape of despair, where the trenches carved deep scars across Europe. Amidst this bleak setting, Private James Thompson, a young British soldier, clutched a worn photograph of his family, longing for the warmth of home. Across the muddy expanse of no man's land, Friedrich Müller, a German soldier of similar age, gazed at the starlit sky, reminiscing about the peaceful nights in his small Bavarian village. A century later, in the heart of the modern-day Middle East, the echoes of conflict resonated through the lives of Leila, a Palestinian teacher, and Avi, an Israeli doctor. Both were wearied by the relentless cycle of violence that overshadowed their daily lives. Leila often stood by her classroom window, looking out at the divided landscape, her heart heavy with the desire for peace. Meanwhile, Avi, amidst the chaos of an emergency room, found brief moments of solace in old photographs of Jerusalem's peaceful past. Though separated by 100 years and thousands of miles, these four individuals shared a common thread of humanity, a deep yearning for peace in a world torn apart by war. Their stories, set against the backdrop of two different conflicts, were about to intertwine in a testament to the enduring spirit of hope and the unyielding desire for a world beyond the reach of war's shadows. As Christmas Eve descended upon the Western Front in 1914, a rare calm enveloped the battlefield. In the stillness of the night, Friedrich retrieved a harmonica from his coat pocket, his fingers gently coaxing the melody of Still Nacht into the cold air. Across the desolate no man's land, the sound of the harmonica drifted into the British trenches, where James, huddled with his fellow soldiers, recognized the tune. Moved by a surge of homesickness and a shared sense of humanity, he began to sing Silent Night in English, his voice carrying across the divide. In a similar vein of shared humanity, during a ceasefire in 2023, Leila, standing amidst the rubble of a classroom, heard the haunting sound of a violin. It was AVI, on the other side of the conflict, playing a melody that transcended the barriers between them. The music, filled with longing and sorrow, became a bridge over the chasm of conflict, connecting two souls who had never met. Tentatively, soldiers from both sides of the 1914 conflict began to emerge from their trenches, drawn together by the power of music. In 2023, Leila, guided by the violin's melody, found herself walking towards the source. There, she met Avi, who had also stepped out into the open, driven by a similar impulse. In these moments, both in 1914 and 2023, the individuals from opposing sides met in their respective no man's lands. They shared names, stories, and a glimpse into each other's lives, finding common ground in their shared experiences of loss, longing, and the dream of peace. On Christmas Day of 1914, the Western Front witnessed an extraordinary event. The soldiers, who had met in no man's land the night before, now gathered again, this time in broad daylight. They exchanged modest gifts, chocolates, cigarettes, and even photographs of loved ones. The air, usually thick with the tension of war, was now filled with laughter and conversation. In a remarkable display of camaraderie, the soldiers from both sides organized an impromptu football match, the thud of the ball echoing a powerful message of unity and sportsmanship. Centuries later, inspired by the legendary truce of their forefathers, Leila orchestrated a small, clandestine gathering between members of their communities. Under the watchful eyes of a ceasefire, they shared traditional foods, stories, and even danced to music that resonated with both cultures. The gathering, though small and fleeting, was a profound act of defiance against the backdrop of ongoing conflict. It was a moment where, just like in 1914, the barriers of language, culture, and history seemed to dissolve, revealing the underlying humanity shared by all. In both eras, these acts of unity served as a beacon of hope. The football match on the muddy fields of Flanders and the shared meal in the war-torn Middle East were not just symbolic gestures, but powerful affirmations of the human spirit's capacity for peace and understanding, even in the darkest of times. For a brief moment, the world seemed to pause, allowing a glimpse of what could be possible when hearts and minds are open to the essence of our shared humanity. As dusk began to fall on that Christmas day in 1914, the soldiers, with heavy hearts, realized that their moment of shared humanity was drawing to a close. Reluctantly, they exchanged final handshakes and pats on the back, their faces etched with a mix of sadness and gratitude. James and Friedrich shared a final, meaningful glance, a silent promise of remembrance. Slowly, they retreated back to their respective trenches, the sounds of camaraderie fading into the night, replaced once again by the ominous silence of the battlefield. In 2023, as the sun set over the divided landscape, Leila and also faced the inevitable end of their brief truce. They understood the fragility of their situation, the delicate balance that could be shattered at any moment by the resumption of conflict. Their goodbye was filled with a sense of bittersweet hope, a recognition of the brief but significant connection they had forged. As they walked away from the gathering, there was an unspoken understanding that their paths might never cross again, yet the impact of this day would linger in their hearts. In both timelines, the return to the grim reality of war was a poignant reminder of the complexities and tragedies of human conflict. The brief interlude of peace served to highlight the stark contrast between what is and what could be, leaving a lasting impression on those who experienced it. James, Friedrich, Leila, and each returned to their daily lives, carrying with them the memory of a day when peace felt not just like a distant dream, but a tangible, albeit fleeting, reality. The resumption of war, both in the muddy trenches of 1914 and the conflict-ridden streets of 2023, brought back the harsh realities that James, Friedrich, Leila, and AVI had briefly escaped. Yet, the memory of the truce lingered in their minds, a stark contrast to the ongoing violence and hostility that surrounded them. James and Friedrich, once back in the trenches, found themselves hesitating before pulling the trigger, their thoughts drifting to the laughter and conversations shared with those they were supposed to view as adversaries. Similarly, Leila and returning to their respective communities, carried with them a sense of responsibility to share the truth of their encounter. They became quiet advocates for peace, using their experience to challenge the narratives of hatred and division. The resolution of these parallel stories lies not in the end of conflict, but in the transformation of individual hearts and minds. The Christmas truce of 1914 and the brief ceasefire in 2023 served as powerful reminders that even in the midst of war, compassion and understanding can flourish. James, Friedrich, Leila, and AVI, each in their own way, continued to hold onto the hope that one day, peace would prevail, inspired by the memory of the day when they saw the enemy not as a faceless other, but as a fellow human being. Years later, long after the guns of World War I had fallen silent, an elderly James made a pilgrimage to a small village in Bavaria. There, he met with the family of Friedrich Müller, who had not survived the war. Together, they shared stories of the Christmas truce, a moment when their loved ones had crossed the great divide of conflict to find common ground. The meeting was a poignant reminder of the bonds forged in the unlikeliest of circumstances, a testament to the enduring power of human connection. In a parallel future, decades after the ceasefire in 2023, the children of Leila and Avi met under much different circumstances. Brought together by a shared vision of peace, they recounted the stories passed down by their parents. In a region still marred by conflict, this meeting symbolized a beacon of hope. The legacy of their parents' brief encounter served as a reminder that moments of peace, no matter how fleeting, carry the seeds of change. The epilogue of these intertwined stories echoes the enduring legacy of the Christmas truce and the brief ceasefire in the Middle East. These moments, separated by time and geography, continue to inspire future generations. They stand as powerful symbols of hope and humanity, demonstrating that even in the darkest times, there exists the potential for understanding, compassion, and the recognition of our shared humanity. The legacy of these brief truces lives on, not just as historical footnotes, but as enduring reminders of what can be achieved when we look beyond our differences and embrace our common human spirit. Wish for the world peace, and may you have a Merry Christmas.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.